I cannot tell if you can hear me. Give me just a moment.
I cannot tell
Now I can tell that you can hear me.
if you can hear
Um, so I'm gonna, hold on a second, take care of something real quick. So, again, I'm sorry that it had to come to this. If you guys are familiar with the television show House MD, um, specifically the episode about House's old grudge against some guy who created a migraine headache cure. Um, Unfortunately, I may have just dosed myself with a massive amount of nitroglycerin. Um, so I'm making my face look weird because that's what my brain feels like right now. I will explain shortly. In just a moment. That is extremely dark. Give me just a moment. I'm going to get this all edited and fucking worked out. For those of you who are interested in something that is far more useful to society than the situation that I now have to deal with, um, the House of Representatives is currently, what do they call these things? They're having a judiciary hearing on the weaponization, this is in scare quotes, the weaponization of the federal government. In the event that you happen to find yourself the type of person that believes that the use of government to impose upon other Americans is bad, um, then I would highly recommend you tune into this and you call your congressperson uh, upon listening to and thinking about the matters that are currently being discussed. I have to actually, I'm listening to it right now. It's starting to distract my ability to think. I'm going to have to put this on pause now. Uh, as many of you may already know, um, my name is Tom. I am currently running. It's not really the right word. Writing. I think writing is probably the right word. I am authoring a fictional story about three young women in a fictional universe that was created by a company that creates a video game. For those of you that are familiar with it, you know which game I'm talking about. It doesn't matter. It's not particularly important necessarily because the actual game itself and the company that produces the game uh, have literally zero involvement in this. And as far as I'm concerned, I wish I did not either. Unfortunately, I do. And now I have to, again, put my face onto this thing and explain something that really is sort of it's a fucking headache. So, um, again, writing a story uh, embedded within a fictional universe that is a video game. Because it is a video game, It puts me in direct contact with other people that play video games. I don't know how many of you people are familiar with what video games are, but it's an electronic media that is generally made use of for people's leisure time, in which you make use of a control, uh, an object of control, generally called a controller, uh, to control the actions of a digital uh, figure either on screen or behind the screen's camera to interact with a fictional world that has been created by the video game developers. If you don't know what video games are, that's what they are. Uh, in the future, which is the past to me because I live in the present, uh, in the future of that initial entry into what video gaming is, with things like Pong, things like the NES, um, video game developers and this thing that people call the internet, or I guess they used to call it the internet, but now it's called the World Wide Web, made it possible for video gamers to play with one another uh, through the use of the internet. This possibility that was created by the combination of the use of the internet and the interaction with video games made it so that people from all over the world can play video games with one another, can share an experience. I'm reading a book about this now, and I'm not an expert on play. I'm not an expert on video games, video game culture. I'm not at all. I don't care that much. Um, I mean, it just is what it is, as far as I'm concerned. I'll look into it. I'm looking into it now. But uh, this combination of things called, the one thing called the internet, and then or World Wide Web, or the cloud, and this other thing called a video game. Um, a lot of people from all over the world to get together and join in via a singular platform and a singular experience, where people from all over the world, different cultures, different understandings of the way the world works, different languages, different colors, different spectrums of all around weirdness, um, can interact within a contained setting, which is the video game. Uh, being that I'm currently authoring this thing that I'm authoring in a game that allows me to interact with people from God knows where. I made it known that that's what I was doing to a lot of the gamers. I was essentially saying, hey, look, this is my deal. I'd like to do it in this kind of way. There are videos on both this account and the account that I currently make use of for that specific entity of things. If you don't know, you'll find out soon enough. Um, I said, hey, here's the deal. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm looking at. There are a lot of other players in the universe that are also doing this thing. It's nothing unique, believe you me. But I'm doing it and I enjoy it, so I'm going to continue doing it until this, that, and the other happens. I've also included a number of other things. You can look it up, if you feel like doing it. Neither here nor there at the moment. Long story short, and short story not as short as it should have been, I came into contact with an artist. An artist by the name of Morgan Freeman, who himself was producing work that I found to be artistically valid and artistically and aesthetically interesting based on my understanding and my personal tastes. We were both making use of a specific platform for the release of information that information being words and or visual images. Uh, Again, I found out about this person's work, Mr. Morgan Freeman's work, and I found it to be very quality in the sense of what I believe and I enjoy to be quality artistic work. Um, Thus, I reached out to Mr. Freeman via various platforms, uh, to let him know that I appreciated his work and would like to look into the possibility of working with him on his work. Uh, in doing so, uh, I first made overtures to the rest of the community, complimenting his work to the rest of his community and our shared community as gamers playing in this specific gaming universe. Um, I was immediately contacted by another member of the gaming community about certain aspects of Mr. Morgan's way of doing things. Um, that provided a significantly, how do I put this? Less than aesthetically appealing portrayal of Mr. Morgan, I think is the best way to put that. I am a person from a major city, uh, one that I hate, by the way, just to remind everybody. Um, so less than a less than flattering uh, opinions about other people are not things that I am unfamiliar with. At a certain point, you know, fucking a normal human being just sort of accepts that there are people that are going to believe certain things about certain people. I'm not gonna, I'm not shitting on this person for revealing this information to me at all. Uh, but I did believe it fair. Well, I shouldn't even say that. Uh, it is what it was. Which was the opinion of another about another, about whom I had an opinion of based on this specific person's art, Mr. Morgan's art, or Mr. Freeman's art. This isn't the same Morgan Freeman as the guy that we all watch in the movies, by the way. This is a completely different human being. Um, uh, the African American actor who plays God with his voice all the time is not the person that I'm communicating with, is what I'm trying to explain. This is a completely different Morgan Freeman uh, based on the information that I received. And here is where things get interesting, but not really that interesting. Um, so me and Mr. Freeman began communicating with one another. I immediately addressed the concerns that were brought to my attention about Mr. Freeman uh, in his person. I spoke to him. I said, "Hey, look, here's the deal, man. Uh, this guy is telling me these things about you. I don't really know you or care about this shit. This is none of my business. But I want you to know that I was complimenting your work and that this thing was happening. Uh, I was wondering if you'd like to work with me because this is weird." Um, and he was relatively friendly towards the whole situation. We're different that way. Um, Over the course of the previous year, we then entered into a working relationship that I do not regret entering into. He's an amazing artist. I no no reservations when it comes to my appreciation for what he does, the things that he does with his art. He provided me with a specific set of interactions that I could make use of in the writing that produced a very, very interesting and epic story arc. Epic. Yeah. An interesting story arc that I was happy to produce. Uh, at the beginning of this year, I decided, or rather the end of last year, I decided to terminate that working relationship for reasons that were relatively personal to myself and to Mr. Freeman. Um, I had intended for that to be the end of it. No further discussion, no real need to address the matter. Uh, we had a working relationship that worked perfectly fine, uh, but unfortunately, current events would suggest to me that that belief was wrong. Um, so now I will recount the steps that have brought us to this point, uh, because I believe it deserves a fair audience. Um, I'm not saying you as Americans are a fair audience. You're all fucking garbage. Uh, and I'm not using the term audience in the sense of like a group of people sitting around or even actively observing something. I'm specifically referring to the use of the term audience uh, in its use as the it's used to describe the presentation of information, the presentation of some type of uh, performance of some sort, which is me speaking to you, which is something that I do not enjoy doing on camera and must now do to address something that I would otherwise not have to address were it not for a giant fucking headache. So, Mr. Freeman, based on his descriptions, again, we had a series of long conversations. He's an artist who has worked in major cities uh, and with nightlife. My familiarity with these things sort of immunized me against any immediate judgment about the types of people that live those lives and live their lives in that field. It has also immunized me against predispositions pertaining to judgment uh, about what is acceptable behavior and the types of acceptable associations that a person can make and run into uh, in that field. There are certain aspects of that kind of life. And I don't mean that in any negative sense. I specifically mean things having to do with the nightlife, things having to do with basically anything fucking fun, man. You run into bad people sometimes if you do anything fun. Uh, so, uh, the associations that he began to enlighten me about in terms of his own personal world uh, were not offensive. They were a little disturbing. Uh, and I, being someone in a position of, I wouldn't go so far as to say power, because I'm not, um, but a person in a position of potentially being exploited and potentially being made victim to something uh, for a cause that I may or may not agree with at all. Uh, I made the decision to contact uh, certain associates in my field in order to let them know, hey, uh, this is something going on. I'm doing this thing, and this motherfucker is doing something that is extremely, or rather, providing me with information that I am, one, not in a position to do anything about. Two, am not, don't have any desire to do anything about these situations. And three, could potentially be uh, a flashpoint for something that, one, I don't have any control over, two, I don't want to get involved in, and three, could potentially be dangerous to myself and others. Uh, it's 15 hours. So I provided this information, not like directly. I didn't like fucking give them my fucking chats or anything, but I provided, this is a person that is doing a specific thing. That happened quite early on in the conversations that me and Mr. Morgan Freeman were having. Again, myself, being someone that knows a little bit about what the nightlife represents and what it is, with my previous history as a musician and as a normal human being that isn't a fucking square or a dweeb ass LARPer, um, I had no reason to judge it or place any other wagers upon the information that he's providing to me, other than the fact that this could potentially be something that might be made useful against me or other people at a certain time. Um, Beyond that, I continued with my conversations with Mr. Freeman and with my work in producing a mutually shared vision of a specific art form, that being writing. The written word, or literature as some would call it. Um, Over the course of the conversations, continual information was shared pertaining to the things that he discussed with me and the people that he discussed them about. Um, Now, I should be extremely, no, I'm not going to be extremely anything. Before I continue, I will point something out, or rather, I will make it very clear that I do not wish Mr. Freeman any harm, um, necessarily, uh, and that I honestly do believe that if the information that he is sharing with me or providing me happens to uh, possess any truth, he himself can be potentially in danger, and it's another reason I put this information over to my associates. Um, it's just fucking dangerous. So, um, Mr. Freeman may very well be inadvertently placing himself into a situation of danger as well. So, it is what it is. Again, towards the end of this last year, uh, I began to grow increasingly disturbed is not the right word, uh, but I believe the right terminology would be he began to make use of forms of conversational techniques that are widely regarded by experts in the field as forms of elicitation and extortion. And I talk a lot about that in my blog um, because I am in a field of study that looks into those things not as the crimes that they are, but as simple deployments and simple uses of power. Um, again, not particularly feeling inclined to enter into a contest of power against a man that may or may not be the person uh, that I was speaking to under the specific conditions that you were going to find out about. I simply backed away. I said, after initially confronting him within his own platform, uh, about the nature of what it is that he was doing, and having him subsequently censor the uh, information that I was providing to those who were in a position to witness the things that he was doing. I backed away. I said, okay, well, look, I'm sorry. Here's the deal. Uh, I appreciate your art, but you're fucking weirding me out, and there are these things that are going on, okay? I did these things because of these things. I let these things go, and I continued to work. And you continued to do whatever it is you felt like doing. That's fine. You're free to do those things. Um, and your freedoms are now still yours. Uh, but I am no longer interested in pursuing the angle of this relationship that we had currently pursued. Uh, I generally uh, make an effort to try to avoid this type of contestation because it's just not beneficial to me. Uh, but eh, uh, sometimes you got to do it. But I'll find a way. It just is what it is. Um, I moved on. I began with this year's worth of Nain logs. The Nain logs. Um, I began with those, and they're going fine. This, that, and the other. They're going fine. I'm doing things. I believe the phrase that we used to use is "whoomp whoomp whoomp." Um, uh, but I received in one of my email addresses last night something that was a fucking headache. It just presented a headache. Uh, it's a public document that I've seen before, that Mr. Freeman has been keeping to document certain of his experiences within the gaming community as a member of what he believes to be a world of journalism. Um, I'm not a journalist. I don't care about journalism. I have friends that are journalists who are quite good at their jobs, uh, who would probably be upset with me for saying that, but my friends can lick my balls. Um, so I received an email about these previous documents that I'd seen. Uh, and there was information contained within these documents that I found to be a little less than, how do you say, uh, sufficient to meet my needs. Uh, I believe that it was a fair decision on the part of Mr. Freeman to share these documents with me. I believe that Mr. Freeman believes that, as any good journalist, if that is what he believes that he's doing, uh, when a case is made, uh, those subjects of such a case should be free to respond. So I decided to do so. And respond I did. Uh, and again thought that might be the end of it. Uh, Unfortunately, again, uh, those responses were subject to censorship. and a very tactical censorship at that. Thus, I unfortunately uh, have had to make the decision as to whether or not to respond publicly to a public document. And I have chosen to do so. So I'm going to go ahead and call up this document now so that you may see what it is that I'm looking at. And how do I put this? Understand what it is that you're looking at. So, unfortunately, here is what we're looking at. At one point, I was provided with the information or the ability to edit this document. I'm no longer provided with that access, and that access was revoked upon the tactical censorship of my responses. So, as I mentioned earlier, you can see something that I wrote, and then another thing that I wrote, and then another thing that I wrote, and then even more things that I wrote. This is on a document that I don't want to reveal more about other people in here for the moment. I think this is the document about bad people or something. That's just people being bad. Yeah, this is the bad person one. So, as you can see, Mr. Morgan Freeman did something that's um, a little contentious. Beyond the fact that he's putting my contact information up here onto a publicly available document on Google under a very specific framing of the situation that is one sort of deceitful and framed in such a way as to produce the appearance of Mr. Freeman's position within this to be one that is equally not accurate. It's a thing. So, I'm just going to walk you through it. So, as you can see, all this blue here, and this blue here, that's mine. That's the shit that I wrote into the document. What it also is, however, is edited. So right here is one thing to which I had a response. One, he's exposing. Well, yeah, he's exposing that I, Commander Halflock, on Elite Dangerous. See, I don't want to involve them because it doesn't have anything to do with them. They have nothing to do with what's going on. We're just two guys that play the game, who happen to produce something that is embedded within their field. However, I am that guy. That is also my name. And I am also, I wouldn't go so far as to say I'm a former E3 because I'm still currently one because the Navy is just fucking, I don't know, mooring me, I guess is the fucking word. The quote by Morgan says that by self-admission, I'm likely involved in more than one hostage situation with Americans in America. Uh, and then he puts my email address and then my phone number. And as you can see on this copy, it says, or the edited version of what I wrote. He writes, "Why would you put my?" I write, "Why would you put my contact information on there?" Also, what you're suggesting is that your questioning techniques to attempt to coerce compliance is constitutional for my conducting hostage operations on America. For those of you who don't know what that means, uh, the manner by which Morgan put that information there is specifically designed to make it appear as though I have admitted to conducting hostage operations for the military, which is one, insane to accuse somebody of under these specific conditions, and two, almost insane enough to be sort of funny if I weren't so deeply irritated by the fact that I have to address this fucking at all. Now, there's another document that I put onto my computer, uh, expecting that Mr. Freeman would be deleting this or editing it at the very least. So, I prepared myself. The second fucking thing about this, provided by Morgan. And this is one of the interesting aspects of what's happening here. Oddly, and I apologize in advance to Mr. Tepperberg and Mr. Strauss, who are incredibly successful people from what I've been told. And really, I don't understand why they would have been brought to my attention to begin with, and specifically under these specific circumstances. Um, According to Mr. Freeman, I started contacting Blue Crash's NYC contacts without Blue Crash's consent, asking for work. Contacts like Noah Tepperberg of the Tau Group. It's big business, man. And the edits show that I had zero reason, or show that I'm claiming that I had zero reason to believe that contacting a business owner, informing him of my way of finding out about him through my mutual authorial relationship with Morgan, would find a direct inquiry into, that's a misspelling, would find that a direct inquiry into the possibility of labor in various fields in which he'd operate would be something requiring consent from Morgan. Pretty standard way to do business. Hey, I know a guy that I've spoken to that has been doing business with you before, and I would like to introduce myself and say, hey, this is the guy who has been doing business with you and is now doing business with me, and he made me aware of your presence, so I'd like to introduce myself and say, here's the deal. There's something on the other end of that that has no need to be addressed, which is Mr. Tepperberg's response. I expect he's probably like, who the fuck is this douchebag? And that's fine. I have no reason to concern myself with that aspect of it, other than the fact that I guess if he was like, here's work. But that is not what happened thus far, so I'm going to put a toilet on that. That's not the right word. Unfortunately, that was edited based on a set of information, again, specifically to produce a specific appearance about the manner by which this interaction occurred. What actually occurred was this specific thing here. Again, I don't know these guys beyond my interactions with them. specifically Morgan, and I don't know Morgan's relationship with these guys. They may very well just be having some fun. I don't care. Um, because fun is fun. People do business in a certain way. It's none of my business. But you know, it is my business. Is having to deal with this shit. So I'm dealing with this shit in the way that I'm going to deal with this shit, in the way that I'm supposed to deal with this shit, which is as honestly as possible. So, uh, in our previous conversations prior to my decision to back away from Mr. Freeman, um, again, uh, things that made me relatively suspicious about sort of the information that he is providing me and the purpose for providing me this information. Mr. Freeman informed me of Mr. Strauss's, how do I put this, uh, relationship with the government. The federal government, as a matter of fact. Um, as I had mentioned, I did in fact communicate with this Noah Tepperberg person, uh, specifically pertaining to the fact that one, I had been producing a fictional authorship, fictional work with Blue Crash, uh, and um, that relationship in producing or rather, over the course of that relationship with uh, of producing fictional work with Mr. Blue Crash, he introduced me to certain aspects about who these people are in terms of their business. Again, the information that you're looking at right now is some more of that information that, having been raised in a city, is not exactly the type of thing I have any reason or inclination to take at face value under the circumstances. Uh, the only thing I see is this is a person who's doing business in a field that I might have an interest in and have experience in. Here's the deal. Uh, Unfortunately, as you can see there, and this was deleted from Morgan's copy, upon communicating this to Noah and letting Blue Crash know that I had communicated my interest for work with Noah, Morgan, Mr. Freeman, informed me that he had simultaneously contacted Mr. Strauss without my knowledge uh, to get information about this thing, which you can look at and read. Um, so, as I'm communicating with a business person about the possibility of finding work, Mr. Freeman is communicating with this business person's business partner, who he himself, Mr. Freeman himself, had had experiences in the business community with, uh, about an accusation that is, uh, one, if not true, horrifically ribald and hilarious uh, when I place myself into that position. Uh, and two, if true, not that funny. As you can see, I was not particularly objecting to him putting my contact information on there because one, anyone that looks for a job has to put their contact information on their resumes. And I, looking for a job, have put my contact information out there pretty much everywhere. Uh, Additionally, by the way, with my resume discussing this as an aspect of the actual process of labor that I'm capable of conducting, uh, all signs would point to this situation as being something that I would have to deal with. So, thanks for that. Now, that's not the thing I'm looking for. Back to the document. Still looking for a job, this, that, and the other, this, that, and the other, this, and the other. Here's more of Mr. Morgan Freeman's discussion. Havelock's friendship to try and gain more information came as no surprise after reading his stories about an organization of older men grooming women under the age of 16. Blue Crash has been firm against the traffic of humans as well as illegal testing on humans by the science and private contract community. And as you can see here, I state that this is actually a pattern of Blue Crash's curiosity and questions about what I'm doing to attempt to manipulate the meaning of my fictions in such a manner as to portray it as a form of legitimating underage sex trafficking as opposed to being a fictional account of an organization that trains abused and maligned people to take their abuse and turn it upon those that would impose upon their chosen way of life. Which is a far more serious description of what I'm doing than I would have liked to have put out there as what I'm doing. Because the whole point is that the organization is fucking completely inept and these girls are complete fucking sociopaths. So once you get past that, they're beautiful to me, but they're still sociopaths. Once you get past that, it is pretty serious. And there's a very serious distinction between fucking telling a story that tries to legitimate sex trafficking and child trafficking and telling a story about a bunch of people who've chosen a specific way of life in a universe that is larger than them. Who have a very specific dressage that they have to deal with and that they choose to remain in once finding out about it. I don't think it's funny. I think the other stuff is funny. But that accusation, beyond it being sort of ridiculous and always kind of ribald and funny, not funny when it comes to this art. At all, actually. It's infuriating. It's a fucking headache. It's a fucking migraine. I don't recall if he changed that, but he probably did. So, what I did actually say was this was actually a pattern of Blue Crash's conversational methods to attempt to manipulate the meaning of my fictions in such a manner as to portray it as a form of legitimating underage sex trafficking as opposed to a fictional account of an organization that trains abused and maligned people to take their abuse and turn it upon those that would impose upon their chosen way of life. Which is sort of the same thing, but far more different. And I'm going to explain why it's different, as a matter of fact. He specifically changes the terminology from conversational methods to curiosity and questions. Now, there's a very specific reason I use the term conversational methods. That specific reason being curiosity and questions are a specific method of trying to obtain specific information that can be made useful in portraying something in a way that you'd like to portray it. It's very literal. Good fucking Christ. Anyway, moving on to the next point. Havelock's, according to Mr. Freeman, Havelock's own admission above is that he was hired or is committed to helping bad people do bad things. One, that is not true. Two, that is kind of true, but not in this situation. In this situation, I would prefer to produce art that I like. In the world outside of this, this video game universe, I have issues. with the way the world works. Namely, these specific methods of portraying things that Mr. Freeman is using to produce advantageous personal gain. So I had a response to that. I said, I'm not quite sure on my admission to reporting his rather outlandish claims about others and seeming pattern of elicitation of information to those that might be in need of the information about what Morgan might do to exploit me as a member of the Navy's intelligence community is constitutional of helping bad people do bad things. For those of you who have access to this document, you are aware of what I'm referring to. And as a member of the naval intelligence community, which you see down below, I'm pretty sure, one, that there is no admission that I was hired or is committed to helping bad people do bad things in any of that at all. I'm sure you could read it that way, but I'm sure you could also read curiosity and questions as conversational methods. So, I'm going to let that one sit at rest because it's ridiculous. This last one, I wonder if that was also changed. That was not changed. Now this last one is very strange. I'm not really quite sure what any of it means. I say it right there. Thomas admits he might be exploited, despite no questions ever being asked about operations, procedures, or events, or anything pertaining to government or military disciplines. Havelock's own admission above implies that he was also tortured as an American by Americans with DARPA, IARPA tech that may have been sold to private contractors by SAINC. So, I'm just going to read what I said, because that's probably the simplest way to address this. I don't know what this means, but it might be something that actually happened. Fuck if I know, I'm just an image dude. I don't tell a shit about anything. It's very true. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the ways that classification works, there's an extremely compartmentalized phenomena, structure, institution. People are told what they need to know in order to do the things that they need to do. The people that work, say, for instance, in the Army's intelligence field. Various intelligence fields that operate within the Army are told specific things because they have operational need to know. They may or may not be provided the same information that I as an image guy get, which is the raw imagery data coming from satellites, from FMV, from airplanes, Chinese spy satellites perhaps, if I were Chinese and worked with the Chinese PRC or PLAN, which I'm not, and I don't. Further, there are people that work for the Department of Treasury, or the Department of the Interior, or the Department of Homeland Security that also have various forms of classification specific to their fields. The image guys have talent keyhole. It's just what it's called. I assume it's because they're a bunch of snoopers and they're snooping through keyholes to look at what's going on. I don't know. Fuck if I know. But again, the classified rates, classified jobs, jobs that hold government classification clearances, have very specific compartmentalized avenues of information that they receive and distribute and can receive and can distribute information about. Sometimes those channels will overlap. Sometimes they will not. I mean, you don't have to believe me because no one believes anything having to do with anything at all right now, apparently, uh, is happening, is believable. That's a weird and butchered sentence. But I don't know anything that is going on within the Defense Advanced Research, whatever fucking DARPA stands for. I don't care. It's none of my business. Nor ARPA, IARPA Tech. I didn't know that was a thing. Apparently it's a thing. And let's see. No questions ever being asked about operations, procedures, or events, or anything pertaining to government or military disciplines. Here's the thing. Did you notice how I provided information that was provided to me from Blue Crash, Mr. Morgan Freeman, about his former business associates? That information was provided to me by Mr. Morgan Freeman freely. It's now information that I had in my possession. Now, what do you think happens if this information happens to be true? If the DEA is in fact exploiting these people for this, that, and the other, if these people are aware of their being exploited and would like to keep the reasons for their being exploited a secret, in a situation where Mr. Freeman has possession of the knowledge that I have this information. I'll give you a couple seconds to figure this out. The same thing that happens when the government gives its own people classified information is what happens. The difference being that Mr. Freeman is not the government. Mr. Freeman may or may not be in the possession of the capacities to protect someone that is now in possession of a very specific set of data points and information pertaining to groups of people that the person that he's provided this information to would have any access to or knowledge about. So this is something that came to my attention, and I began to believe about the situation relatively early on. And I address it here. I say, dude, I really think you need to seek professional help. Not psychological if you don't believe yourself in need of it, but something that's going to help you get past your experiences so you can avoid making use of techniques that are well known to be exploitative upon those upon whom you're using them, and then portraying yourself as the victim of their own decision to contest your freedom to do so to them. If that's confusing, if I were to walk up to you and start punching you in the face for no reason, I would not be the victim of your assault. I'm waiting for this conversation. I would not be the victim of your assault if you then defended yourself from my original encroachments. I'm waiting for this conversation. If there's any truth to the information that Mr. Morgan Freeman has been providing me about his life and his associations and the things that he's witnessed and borne witness to, Mr. Morgan Freeman may potentially be in danger. Mr. Morgan Freeman may potentially be acting in a way that is entirely rational. Mr. Morgan Freeman may be acting in a way that is understandable, and I understand it. But I'm in no position to stick my neck out for somebody under a situation where they're punching me in the face and in the back of the head. what I do believe is that Mr. Morgan Freeman may very well be suffering from any number of emotional traumas. That happens. Uh, the world that he informed me that he used to work in is a very high pressure environment. I get it. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of bad things that happen in that world. I understand that. People have to bear witness to these things and then just move on. But again, that is not something that is that does not impose limitations on the things that I need to do to secure my own safety. Uh, and when Mr. Freeman is providing this information and conducting himself in the way that he's conducting himself, uh, his victimization is of slightly lesser concern than it should be in the face of my own having to protect myself. So, as I said before, I wish him well. I really do. But at the same time, and for anyone that has access to this information, this specific document, you know what I'm referring to. What Mr. Freeman is doing is constitutionally producing dangers to the people with whom he's been gaming based on a horrifically poorly reasoned argument, based on his belief in the legitimacy of what he's doing being an exercise of his freedoms. I understand the concept of journalism. I understand the attempts to draw attention to things and to try to help people that you believe may be in need of help. I just did that. However, uh, 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 when the decision to do these things is based on a very specific, previously determined decision about how to interact with somebody because it's in your own rational self-interest beyond their care, one, then go fuck yourself. Two, it's not necessarily helping the people that you may believe it could be helping. Again, for those of you who have access to this document, you know exactly to what I'm referring. For those of you who do not, what I would suggest is that you take an active role in determining for yourselves the degree to which you believe this is an appropriate prompting for me to put my face on the fucking stream again. Here is the second of the documents, which is basically just a repetition of what is going on. There's no need to address the second one, but I am in possession of that thing. Let's see. The edits appear to be identical to the previous document. So, I fucking hate video gamers. I hate streamers. I hate video game culture. You're all fucking stupid. I'm sorry that I said that, but I mean it in my heart right now. I have addressed the matter at hand. I've addressed the fact that I have that I initiated a working relationship with a specific video gamer by the name of Morgan Freeman of Blue Crash Studios, New York, who was a relatively successful artist whose art I very much appreciated. I've addressed the matter of Mr. Freeman's manner by which to conduct his businesses and the things that he believed to be uh, in orders of his business. I've addressed the manner by which situations, my own situation, uh, personal situation, my own life situation, has rendered our working relationship incapable of continuing without producing various externalities that will uh, potentially render non-dangerous situations dangerous. And I have addressed the manner or the reasons for which I am now going onto the stream and putting my face and having to address this migraine. Uh, so that is the end of that. In other news, the House of Representatives uh, is still uh, discussing the weaponization of the federal government. So I'm gonna cheat for a second and let you guys watch this. You're probably not gonna be able to hear it, but it'll at the very least give you a chance to like look at what it is you can look at if you go onto YouTube. Don't know if it's doing it now, so hold on a second. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. There it is. So this is what I'm going to watch for the remainder of the day because I don't care about this that much uh, as anything more anything more than just a headache. So I'm going to listen to this Tea Party lady begin to speak, and I'm going to end the stream now.